Today is the last day of our Ganapati in the ashram. So they started playing the loudspeaker here itself. I forgot. Otherwise, I shouldn't have started today's talk. But anyway, since I have started, let me speak for a while at least. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We were discussing the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Yoga, preparation for yoga was discussed. The actual meditation was discussed. Now, the fruit of yoga, with the purpose of describing the fruit of yoga from different angles. See, he discusses the fruit of yoga from different angles. Its purpose is, one is to show that you have to continue this meditation until you get this fruit. So the purpose of explaining the fruit of meditation, fruit of nididhyasana, is, one reason is that you have to continue the meditation until you get this fruit. Then only the meditation is complete. Otherwise it is still incomplete. You won't get the fruit of meditation. Second is that the fruits are described from different angles. The purpose of the second reason is, the second purpose of explaining from different reasons is for the sadhaka to correct the mind from various angles, various defects in the mind, so that you know how to correct them from these various angles. Okay, correcting means you falsify the mind in these various ways. The same truth of mind being no mind, mind being false in the consciousness is understood from the different angles. So this second reason is helping you in the meditation. The very nididhyasana, so the fruit of nididhyasana is also a sadhana of nididhyasana. Both. It serves the both. Okay. So prashanta manasam henam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutam akalmasham. So prashanta manasam, he becomes a prashanta mind. His mind becomes peaceful. Here the peace is of different type. Earlier, as a karma yogi, the peace of the mind is born of karma yoga. That means when ragadveshas are surrendered, when the things are accepted as a prasada of Ishvara, so the ragadveshas of born of phalasakti, the disturbances born of phalasakti as goes away, then the mind becomes peaceful. There really the mind becomes peaceful. Here it is not the mind that is peaceful. It is the very absence of the mind, very giving of the mind. The peace is Atma only. Prashanta manasam, mind becomes quiet in the Atman itself. Earlier, mind becomes quiet from ragadvesha. Here mind doesn't become clear from Ragadvesha. Mind itself is cleared of the Atman. See, Atma becomes free from the mind. Atma is mistaken as the mind, including the Pramatrutvam and the Prameya. The Atma is mistaken as both Pramatru and Prameya. So this mistake is corrected and seen the entire waking state as inseparable from the Sakshi. The entire waking state, that means the entire pratyaya, is seen as inseparable from the consciousness. Just as wave is not different from water, water itself is called by another name wave. Similarly, the mind comparable to wave is nothing but consciousness. It is the consciousness by mistake is called as wave, as mind. Okay? It is the consciousness, it is the Sakshi, it is the Chaitanyam by mistake is called as a waking state. Or in other words, you are the Sushupti. Sushupti Swarupam is mistaken as the waking state and dream state. In fact, waking and dream don't exist apart from deep sleep. Deep sleep is yourself, the self-existing, non-dual consciousness. It is the pure existence. The pure existence or the deep sleep is mistaken for the waking state. In fact, what the worldly people, Laukikas, think that I have woken up from my deep sleep, it is a waking man's thinking that I have woken up from deep sleep. I have come from the deep sleep to the waker, in fact, doesn't come and go. All coming and going is a pratyaya, is within waking state alone. So waking state doesn't come from deep sleep. Deep sleep is non-dual. There is nothing apart from deep sleep. How can anything come out of deep sleep? Therefore, ajam sarvamas anusmritya kama bhogan nivartayet. No. What is that? Dukkham sarvam anusmritya kama bhogan nivartayet. Ajam sarvam anusmritya. What is that? Naivatu jayate. Jatam naivatu jayate. This shloka is very beautiful. Dukkham sarvam anusmritya. When the mind rises again, rises means what? When the pratyaya is formed, the consciousness is disturbed and pratyaya is formed. While doing nididhyasana, instead, when mind should be understood as Chaitanyam, but from the Chaitanyam still you feel that the vritti is coming. Then that vritti, when the vritti comes, it comes that there is a world and I want a particular thing. Two ways it comes. That there is a subject-object duality, that I am seeing something, I am seeing something, this is a jnatrughneya dvaita buddhi, pratyaya. Another pratyaya is that you love some particular object. Since we like particular things, the thoughts keep coming. The thoughts keep coming because we like them. Any thought comes to you because of liking alone. Okay. Therefore, dukkham sarva manusmritya kama bhogan nivartayet. By understanding that any thought, any object ultimately leads to dukkham alone. That way, you can avoid the thoughts about the world. Okay. Second point is, jatam sarva manusmritya, jatam naivatu pashyati. Everything is only a kalpitam. Jatam means nothing is born. Ajam sarva manusmritya. When nothing is born, then what is jatam? Nothing is born because Nothing has a beginning and end. The waking state has no beginning and end. Not only the waking state, everything on the earth has no beginning and no end. When something has no beginning and no end, then can we say that it exists? The shloka, see how beautiful it is. Gaudapadacharya shloka. Ajam sarva manusmritya. It has no beginning. Adavante cha yannasti tat vartamanepi tat tata. What has no beginning and no ending? You see, does waking state begin and end? Does a dream begin and end? When dream neither begins nor ends, just you think, what neither begins nor ends, what is it? What neither begins nor ends. If it doesn't begin, it doesn't even exist also. Because that's why it doesn't end. So it is only thought. You think that it is there. It is only a thought which neither begins nor ends. And that thought is only, you look deeply into the thought, the thought dissolves into its real nature. Thought dissolves into its real nature is consciousness. Real nature is Sakshi alone. Therefore, the world dissolves into the Chaitanyam. Dissolves means is understood to be nothing but Chaitanyam. Only by a name you are calling it as mind. Otherwise, there is no mind. Okay. Therefore, Prashanta Manasam. Mind becomes Prashanta. That means mind is understood as nothing but consciousness. Yoginam. To such yogi, Akalmasham Yoginam. Yogi, he becomes totally pure. Yogi doesn't ceases to be a yogi. He becomes only Brahman only. Akalmasham, what is the kalmasha here? The very meditation is the kalmasha. That means the very thought is kalmasha. The very meditation comes to an end. The very meditator, meditation, everything is Chaitanya Matram. Okay? The meditator, meditation, all mind is focusing. The mind and its focusing is understood as consciousness. See, it's a very strange thing. When you take a light, if a light is focused on an object, it illumines. If the light is turned inward, eyes can see some object. But when your eyes are turned inwards, when your eyes are trying to see yourself, what happens? Eyes ceases to be eyes. Okay. When the mind is turned towards Atma, mind ceases to be mind. Mind is a mind when its attention is outward. Okay. Mind is a mind. When its attention is outward, you become Pramata. Sakshi becomes Pramata when your attention is outside. Attention is something other than you. Outside means other than you. Now your attention of the Pramata is not something other than you. Attention of the Pramata is towards the very Atma. When the attention of the Pramata is on the object, there is a Pramata and Prameya. When the attention is turned towards the Atma, there is no second object, therefore there is no object. When there is no object, how can the subject Pramata remains? Even Pramata dissolves, only Sakshi remains. Because the Pramata, when focuses attention on Sakshi, he is Sakshi. He merges into Sakshi. He ceases to be a Pramata. Okay? Here, when the mind is turned towards the Sakshi, Sakshi is everything. Swatasiddham. Swatasiddham is not an object to be known. And there is no knower need to. There is no knower. And you don't have to stand as a knower to know the Sakshi. Okay. To know anything else, you have to stand as a pramata. To know anything else, you have to stand as a pramata, as related to it, as a knower of it, as a subject of it. Subject is a subject. Subject stands as a subject only in related to object. If subject is focused to the Sakshi, Sakshi is the common basis of subject and object. Sakshi is the common basis, common root of subject and object. When the subject turns its attention to the Sakshi, neither subject nor object stand. Both of them dissolve. Both means the divisive line dissolves. The same is Sakshi. The same Sakshi was appearing due to mistake as a subject and object. Therefore, if you look at the subject, it is Sakshi. Look at the subject, it is Sakshi. That means the same one consciousness appeared as a subject and object. It is something like the same paper. You see the two sides of the paper. Two sides you look at yourself alone. Isn't it? You see, look, this side of the hand is hand alone. So two sides don't make any difference when you look at the hand. You see the hand as a whole. Two sides don't make any difference. Two sides dissolve into one hand. Similarly, subject is one aspect, object is one aspect. Both dissolve into one Sakshi. Okay. Therefore, yogi ceases to be a yogi. Yogi means ceases to be a sadhaka. Then what happens to such a person? Still we call yogi because it is a culmination of yoga. You are Brahman alone. Sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutam sukham. Then the rajas means all impurities. All impurities means all relations. Subject-object relational state alone is rajas. Isn't it? All relations go away. All rajas means impurity. Impurity is a relation, that is thought. So all relations, all thoughts cease. Whether you open your mouth or close your mouth, you alone exist. Whether you open your eyes or close your eyes, consciousness alone exists. See, you open your eyes, it is in the wakeful consciousness your eyes are open. When you close your eyes, it is in wakeful consciousness. In the wakeful consciousness, you open your eyes and close your eyes, it is only wakeful consciousness. Similarly, the entire wakeful consciousness is consciousness. Whether you are in waking state, whether you are in deep sleep or waking, both mean the same. Whether you are in waking, you are in the consciousness. Whether you are asleep, you are the consciousness only. Therefore, the thought is consciousness, the without thought also is consciousness. So, the mind, it dissolves into consciousness because not dissolves as an action. You have not pushed it. You have, like the wave is understood as water, you have not made any changes in the wave or water. You only in understanding, you see, it has been water, it has been, it is. Then when was wave not water? When was the wave not water? That is understanding. There was never a time when wave was not water. Similarly, there is never a time when thought is not consciousness. In and through the thought, inside the thought, outside the thought, that means thought is illumined by consciousness. The absence of thought, the dissolution of thought is also consciousness. Rising of thought is consciousness. Dissolution of thought is consciousness. So you are throughout your consciousness alone. The thought rising or known or dissolving, both of them do not make any difference because both are consciousness alone. So therefore, Brahma Bhutam, you get that Brahman. Brahman means the absolute. Brahma means, the very word Brahma means dissolving all duality, dissolving all relation. You become non-dual. You become the absolute. You understand that there is only absolute. Absolute alone. In the infinite, you can imagine any number of any numbers. Any number of numbers you can imagine within the infinite. Infinite lends itself to be imagined any number, any number. All numbers are ultimately part of infinite alone. They are false numbers because falsely imagined, like the space. Infinite space, you imagine the different sizes of space. You can imagine any number of sizes in the space. You can imagine any number of sizes in the space. So all the sizes are nothing but space. Space is so infinite that any permutations, combinations, any sizes, any dimensions, all the dimensions are false in the infinite space. Okay? All dimensions are only falsely imagined. Dimensions have no meaning in the infinite space. Similarly, thoughts have no meaning in the infinite consciousness. In the mirror, all the reflections are in the mirror, but that they don't touch the mirror. See, mirror remains always untouched. Let there be any number of appearances. All appearances don't touch the mirror at all, because they don't divide the mirror. They don't touch the mirror. In fact, they don't exist. The appearances, appearances means the reflections in the mirror have no existence apart from mirror. The various sizes, colors, forms appearing in the mirror have no existence apart from mirror. In fact, various reflections are like various waves in water. See, take these three examples. Waves in water, reflections in the mirror, various dimensions in the space. Okay? Various dimensions in the space, various reflections in the mirror, various waves in water. Look at the water as a whole. Waves are included in it. You don't have to think of wave as a separate. A wave is not something apart from water. In the water, wave is included, isn't it? In the thought of wave, in understanding of wave, in the understanding of water, wave is included. Similarly, in the mirror, all reflections are included. In the space, all the dimensions are included. It's an infinite. Similarly, all the state, the entire waking state. Waking state is not fixed. Okay? Because waking state has no beginning, no end. What doesn't have a beginning and end doesn't exist at all. Waking has no beginning, no ending. That means it doesn't exist apart from consciousness. What you call waking is only consciousness. Like the dimensions in space, waking is a dimension in the space. How many dimensions are there? What dimension exists in the space? Similarly, what state exists in the consciousness? The waking is only a thought in the consciousness. So waking has no fixed form. That's why waking is formless. You see what form waking has? It has no beginning and no end. It has no fixed form. That's why it is a moving state. Moving in the sense, appears and not there. Drishta nashta swabhava. And Shankaracharya says, drishta nashta. As it appears, it is not there. As it appears, it is not there. As it appears, it's not there. Just like the dimensions imagined in the space. The lines written in water. The lines written in water are waves. What are waves? Like the lines written in water. As you write, they are water. They disappear in water. They appear in what? Appear as water and disappear. They disappear, remain as water. They appear as water and they remain and disappear, they remain as water. Similarly, mind is consciousness. It dissolves as consciousness. It appears as consciousness. When it dissolves, it remains consciousness. Therefore, then Sukham Uttamam. He gets the Uttamam Sukham. Uttamam means the highest happiness. What is highest? It is immeasurable. Here, even though he calls it highest, it is not highest because there is no measure. It is Uttamam Sukham means the highest happiness. That means immeasurable. Immeasurable means no dimension at all. When there is no dimension, what is that? It is happiness through and through. All that is only, there is only happiness. Happiness means a freedom, no restrictions. Nothing second to you which restricts you, controls you, pressurizes you. That means you are free from all pressure, all restrictions. It is a pressure that you feel. It is a restriction that is dukkha. It is a pressure that is dukkha, isn't it? It is a pressure that is dukkha. It is a restriction that is dukkha. You feel no restrictions, no pressure. Then you are free. The freedom is joy. The freedom is joy. That is Ananda. That means you have no limit. You just don't know what to do, what not to do. That means there is no limit. There is nothing to restrict you. There is nothing to let. There is nothing to stop you. You just do anything. You are anything, you are everything. So that is a Sukhamuttamam, Brahma Bhutam. It is absolute and it is. So here he is negating the mind, he is negating the limitations, negating the limitations, negating the mind. So this is the yoga phalam. The fruit of yoga is Brahmatvam. Fruit of yoga is culmination of yoga. Yoga is meditation. The fruit of yoga is culmination of yoga. When you reach, there is nothing. Nothing means all the yoga is already part of you. You are already the culmination. You are the culmination, you are the completeness of yoga. You are the fulfillment of yoga. You have not reached the Brahman as a result of something. You have not reached as a result of a process of yoga. You feel that you are already full. You have been full. Yaru? You have been full. You are full. You have never been something other than full. Okay? There is neither been, nor is, nor can ever be other than fullness. It is everything. Okay. Yanjannevam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma sansparsham attyantam sukhamashnute. I think we will have a small dose. Only I think I have spoken just a half an hour only. I think it is enough for today. We'll see in the next class. After a long gap, I take small doses only. 28th shloka we shall see in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.